Hello, my name is Dr Ann Alston and I'm passionate about children's literature and looking at books and images. I've been working with Greet at Book Island and they've just published this amazing new book. So I'm going to do this in two different ways. The first video is going to be just reading the story so we can all sit down and get a good idea of the story. And for my second video, I'm going to be talking to you about the different stories we can get out of a story and the different ways of looking at pictures, because at university I teach students to do this, but I don't see any reason why all of you at home can't have a good go at this as well. So this story is called The Garden of Inside Outside, and right now we're in lockdown, and so this book, the children are also in lockdown, but for a very different reason. They're in lockdown because outside of their garden there's a war going on. We're in lockdown because of the coronavirus, but it's still we can draw lots of parallels. So like I say, the first thing we're going to do is read the book. This book is an autobiographical book written by Chiara, illustrated by Reggie Lejonc, and translated by Sarah Artisan. The Garden of Inside Outside. Here, just on the title page, we have a little synopsis of the history of Iran from where they went. But for our purposes, what we need to know is that during these disturbing historical events, the author's father, Francesco Mezzalama, was appointed Italy's ambassador to Iran. He went at the end of November in the thick of a revolution, hostage crisis and war. And then her mother, brother, and the little girl we have here joined him at the embassy for the summer of 1981, which is where this story begins. One day, my father told us we were going to a faraway country. I packed my suitcase on a summer's evening. My little brother and I chose a few toys, some cards and books. We weren't sure if we'd find any where we were going. There was an inside and an outside where we were going. Inside. There was once a garden so huge it was never ending, a wild garden where prince and princesses used to live. Real ones, not the sort you found in made-up stories. The garden held memories, fountains the colour of sky, pomegranate trees, tall grasses where all kinds of insects hid, wild flowers, and a pond with a carp that was 100 years old. Tall plane trees with leaves as big as giants' hands offered shelter for the birds flying through the clouds. They would land in the branches and hold their conferences. It was a garden full of hiding places. Outside. Before our arrival, the garden was neglected. The princes and princesses had been driven out, and the huge iron gates locked. The city where the secret garden belonged had collapsed into war. Nobody heard the birds singing anymore, or the water in the fountains. Even the wind in the leaves of those massive trees was silent. Gunfire, exploding bombs, and cries drowned out every sound. The city had grown dark. So had its women and men. People queued for food. Everywhere there were soldiers with heavy boots and big beards, their rifles slung across their shoulders. The city monster made us feel very frightened. But we were safe inside our garden. A wall protected us from the city monster. We set off on adventures to the other end of the grounds. We were so far away from the house, we felt as if we were all alone in the world, with our rubber boots and our sticks. We chased butterflies, caught lizards, picked wild flowers for our mother. We didn't have any friends, so we asked for a dog. We got one. Small yellow dog who ran about with us like a mad thing. There were 3 of us now. We were happy. In the evenings, the scent of jasmine flowers would fill the garden. We ate outside by candlelight to the sound of the fountains and a concert of cicadas. Outside, sometimes we heard the air raid sirens. Bombs would explode in the city monster, and the rattle of gunfire would wake us in the middle of the night. Our mother came to reassure us. She held us very tightly in her arms. Why do people wage wars? I used to ask her. Sometimes people grow mad with anger, with hatred. They lose their grip on words and they choose weapons instead. The truth is, I don't know the answer to your question, she replied. Our mother became sad. She reacted by scolding the crows which ate her flowers and left pink and purple bird droppings all over the garden. She would clap her hands, but the crows knew they were safe inside our walls. One day, the dog, my little brother and I set off for an adventure at the bottom of the garden. The wild grasses were tall and dry. They scratched our legs. At the bottom of the garden stood the iron gates, which were always locked. We peered through them and glimpsed the other side. We could hear the city monster breathing darkly. A little boy peered back. He was staring at us from the other side of the bars, and quick as a cat, he climbed the wall and leapt into our garden. He held out his hand towards us. My brother and the dog ran off, but I stayed there. His hand felt warm in mine. We didn't speak the same language, but I understood we'd become friends. He put his hand to his chest and told me his name, Massoud. And I'm Chiara. Outside, inside. Are you mad? My little brother wanted to know. His father might be a revolutionary, one of the bloodthirsty beards. If it was so easy for him to climb the walls, what's to stop the others? We simply have to tell the grown-ups. If you tell, I'll kill you. This is our secret. That night, I felt a little frightened. My brother was right. Our protecting wall had been breached. There was no longer an inside and an outside. The city monster was spreading its tentacles. The next day, I set off in search of my new friend at the bottom of the garden, and there he was, waiting for me with his beaten-up shoes, his torn t-shirt, his tousled hair, his dark eyes. He looked handsome. Together, we mounted our horses and travelled alongside the silk roads. He was the Persian prince of outside inside with his sabre and his talking bird. I was the lion-taming princess and snake-charming enchantress. All the treasures from the kingdom of inside outside belonged to me. Our evil enemies wore beards and turbans. They loathed music, so we sang. They loathed dancing, so we danced. They were afraid of beauty, so we picked flowers to adorn our hair. We climbed a fig tree to gather its fruit, which tasted of sugar and sunshine. We ran, we jumped, we watched the clouds moving across the sky. Massoud could come into the garden, but I couldn't venture out. Inside, outside. I wanted to find a present for Massoud, to give him something special, because he was my friend. I took off my favourite t-shirt, the one with lots of different colours, and I gave it to him. He stared at me with a serious expression, shook his head. Then he fled. The t-shirt was left behind in the dust. Don't you want it? Why not? I was angry. I shouted and I wept. Inside, outside, inside, outside. Those words were going round and round inside my head until they gave me a headache. That was when I understood how hard it was to mix inside and outside. The wall had a good side and a bad side. But who says which side of the wall you're on? Who gets to choose? I didn't want to run down to the bottom of the garden anymore. I spent my days reading, while my little brother played with the dog. I felt sad and locked away, as if in a golden prison. Then one day, I made up my mind, and I set off again. There was Massoud, in my colourful t-shirt. He looked great in it. He was holding something in his hand. It was for me, a tiny cat carved out of wood. I stared at it, felt it, and hid it at the bottom of my pocket. It wasn't a gift, it was a swap. Our inside-outside secret. He nodded, smiled at me and left. Returning, we left that faraway country. The war there ended a long time ago. The garden is even more beautiful now, filled with flowers, trees, fountains, and birds. Yes, and crows too. Sometimes I think of Massoud, and I wonder what happened to him. Did he keep the secret of inside outside? When I'm feeling unsure about anything, I hold his little cat tightly at the bottom of my pocket. I think of Massoud, and that I'm brave enough to breach walls. Because there are so many walls everywhere you go. There are insides where we feel safe, and outsides that make us feel frightened. There are walls and there are cats as brave as you and him and me, leaping from one side to the other. I really hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll have a look at the teacher notes, and also you'll be able to listen to the next video to talk more about this amazing book. Thank you very much. Bye.